Morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's Conrad, I'm Jack, and this is the Footy 5. As we enter the last 12 matches of the 2018-2019 Premier League season, we're looking at the 5 managers who have the most talking points around them regarding their future or how well they're doing right now. And we're going to start off with the most recent manager in terms of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, guy who replaced Jose Mourinho after he was fired, and
Heading a goat.
He's done wonders for Manchester United.
12 matches, 11.
Or 10 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss.
10, it's insane. With the same squad.
Thing is, there's belief in the players now. Pogba's getting the best out of him. He's playing the best form of his life. And he's just been able to get more from the squad than Mourinho ever could. And that's been the biggest part of his elevation. And
they got to keep him. I don't know why. They don't need a big name. Alex Ferguson was not a big name when he got there. They made him a big name.
In my view, I think that you're going to see how well he can manage with the tactical parts, because he was in a feel-good period where everyone is hyped over the managerial change. It's just not Jose Mourinho. It wasn't a case of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being a good manager. It was a case of him not being Jose Mourinho. And I think that these next couple of matches, they play Chelsea tomorrow and
the
Liverpool.
Loss against PSG, they didn't look very good. And that's PSG without Cavani.
And Neymar.
Without Neymar. And they still didn't look very good.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that these next 2 matches against Chelsea in the FA Cup and Liverpool in the Premier League are going to be 2 of the biggest ones for Solskjaer, whether or not they can withstand once you get past that feel-good period. I think that he's got what it takes because the fans love him, and that's one of the biggest things.
And he's a legend of the club. I mean, he played for the club for years, and I don't know why you move on from him.
Exactly.
I think you give him the job. I think he's earned it.
I agree with that. And speaking of another person who's earned everything going well for them, that's Nuno Espirito Santo. His Wolves are in 7th place right now, 11 points off of 6th, but you can't imagine that you'd expect more from a newly promoted side.
Phenomenal transfer business they've done. We've talked about it before. Great young Portuguese players. He's brought in some veterans also, getting them up from the championship last year. And then, will they challenge for the top 6? No, probably not, unless Arsenal completely fall apart or Chelsea continue to kind of poop down their pant leg. But the thing 7th in the table is great.
The barometer for newly promoted teams is the 3rd place Newcastle that was in the 1990s. That is how good a team can do when newly promoted. Versus Wolves, they are challenging with teams who have much more money. Transfer market, the squad value of Wolves is 220 million euros versus Arsenal 660 million. That's the next one. It's 3 times as expensive.
That's the next one up.
That's the next one up from them in terms of the top 6. So they are much less funded, and if they get any more funding, as their owners have shown that they're willing to do.
Strong FA Cup run too.
Exactly. I mean,
Manager of the Year candidate potentially.
I think he will, because I think that neither Klopp or Guardiola, if one of those two have their team win the Premier League, neither of them really will win it over this guy who has had a much more significant. Because we expected ourselves.
Look at Fulham, promotion candidate, did a lot of transfer business, bottom of the table.
Exactly. We expected Liverpool and City to be number 1, number 2, so it's not a surprise. This is a bit of a surprise. He's been very, very good.
I mean, you knew they were good in the championship last year, but did you know they were top 7 good coming in? Top half? Even I knew they weren't going to be a relegation challenge for them, but that's still, it's outrageous.
100%.
But from the great
to the not
so great.
So Chelsea had a good period under Sarri. They've been trying to initiate this change through the club. I think they should give Sarri more time, personally. They lost to Bournemouth 4-0.
He's throwing his players under the bus.
They beat Huddersfield 5-0, and then they lost to City 6-0.
Smoked.
It's obviously really difficult to see him lasting very long. But that's the issue with Chelsea. They're not willing to make a cultural change, and that, I think, is going to be their downfall. I think that Sarri has a very good prospect with this team. He's gotten some good unloved players.
Club.
But it's not a patient club.
With managers.
And that's what made this such in my opinion, a weird hire. He was not going to be like an Antonio Conte, where he would be a continuation of Chelsea culture. He was going to try and change
It's a very
things.
different style.
And the fact that
Defensively, they're atrocious.
There's always going to be a period of transition, and Chelsea don't want that. And that's what's going to ultimately, I think, cost him his job. And other teams who are wondering if they made the wrong decision with their new manager is Arsenal and Unai Emery. I think the biggest issue with him is he's just came in and just kind of been a bit weird about it. He went after Ozil.
There's no consistency, no real identity to that team at all.
He wants a high-pressing squad, and Ozil is not known for that. He's not a lazy player. He just is more of a creative guy.
It's not
Going
what
to
he
take
does.
advantage of those little pockets of space. And he's one of the most talented players in the world. Makes £350,000 a week, and there's a reason for that.
What's the wage bill for Wolves compared to his wage bill?
He makes so much money to be left on the bench by Emery. And I think the thing I think about this is Emery lost the locker room at PSG after that fallout between Neymar and Cavani over the penalty kicks. Yeah. And he said that Neymar is the leader of this team, or trying to be the leader of this team. I'm going to allow him to do that. And that's where he lost the locker room. So when he came in to Arsenal, he wanted to avoid that same mistake. And I think it's just caused a really awkward disconnect, because there are, and especially in the fan base terms, there are fans who still wanted Wenger. They didn't want him to leave. There are people who didn't want Ozil to be dropped.
Louisville might lose.
Oh, Louisville might lose. That totally threw me off right there. And people who didn't like Emery, people who do like Emery. The biggest thing for them, and with Chelsea, is the fan bases are really violent against each other. That's the thing that I think is the most toxic part of those clubs. And
I don't know who Arsenal is anymore.
Neither do I. Neither do I. Chelsea and Arsenal have a lot to think about. I think that they are not giving their managers enough time at all, but obviously they have to make these decisions, and they're disagreeing with it, versus Mauricio Pochettino. I mean,
only time this ever happened, the first time that 2 windows go by with no incoming transfers in the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the history of the Premier League. I heard that somewhere yesterday.
Yep.
That's insane. He's doing so much with the same folks, which I guess is good, because he's got consistency in the squad, which is a plus. But now Kane out,
Ali
Son
out.
was gone for a while, Ali out, but he still keeps getting results.
Here's the thing. Pochettino, I think, is... If I had to rank managers in the Premier League, I'd probably say Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and him are the top 3, because they're the top 3.
And pick an order. I think Guardiola probably the top until Klopp does something, or Pochettino does something.
My issue with Pep, though, is he hasn't done a ton in terms of creating players, versus Pochettino bought Son from Bayer Leverkusen for not a ton of money. It was an unknown name. He's now one of the most talented attackers in the Premier League. Klopp obviously has a huge history of transforming
developing
players.
Guys. Yeah.
I think that Pochettino does a ton with a little amount of money. And if you look at him right here, if Manchester United
wants to pay
sign him,
34
million
pounds to get him, but I think they should keep Solskjaer. I mean, it kind of takes us back to the beginning of the conversation.
Here's the thing, though. I think that Pochettino has more potential. Solskjaer is going to be able to. He has a high floor, but his ceilings. I don't know if he's.
Pochettino hasn't done anything though. I mean, he hasn't
with
won
Solskjaer
anything.
is he hasn't succeeded really anywhere. He hasn't even had good seasons. At Mold, he's been okay. At Cardiff, he was bad.
Terrible.
He was terrible. So I think that
was. I don't know if he had. I don't really think he was set up to win there either.
Exactly. If Pochettino is given money and time from Manchester United, which they need to do, they need to find some stability after Sir Alex Ferguson. He would be the guy for them.
I think.
And the issue with Spurs is, you need to give this guy some money to work with.
Well, I think
don't know how
all their money's tied up in White Hart Lane, which is still not open. September 9th, they were supposed to be open, and they're hoping. I think they're going to play 1 or 2 matches. Nothing in Europe, obviously, but maybe 1 or 2 Premier League matches. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see how Spurs try and keep hold of Pochettino, because if he just says, you haven't given me anything to work with, I'm going to leave to a team that's going to give me something to work with. What can they do? Yeah. I mean, and he's their
34 million.
And then in terms of where people are going around, I mean, Espirito Santo.
He's going to end up at Chelsea. Is he going to be taken away? Is he going to want to leave Wolves after what he's done there?
For Nuno, I think that he's going to want to stay at Wolves for 1 more year. I think he's going to want to try and see what he can do with this side after they all have a year of Premier League experience under their belt. Because they could be one of the sides to finally break into that top 6. That
all depends what Arsenal does.
Talks about it was West Ham, it was Bournemouth, it was Everton, teams that could break into the top 6 in terms of. It's so hard to do because the financial stability. But with the turmoil in Arsenal and Chelsea and even Manchester United to a certain extent, it's about as fragile as it's been in many years. I think that Wolves, of all clubs, have the best chance to do that. And managers are one of the most fundamental things to look at in terms of the future for the biggest teams in the Premier League. That does it for this 5-manager special of the Footy 5. Make sure to subscribe for more content, and for Conrad and for Jack. Thank you so much for watching.